evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 9th, 2020 Village Board of Trustees meeting. Will everyone please stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the village clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Andino.
Present.
Trustee Lang. Trustee Howell.
Present.
Trustee Lee.
Present.
Mayor Luisi.
Present. We have no appointments this evening, but we do have presentations. It's that time of the year. It's March, so not only is it the advent of spring, but it also means that we will be having a wonderful parade next week. So I will like to call up to the podium the Eastchester Irish American Social Club.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and esteemed trustees. My name is John Collins, and I'm here to propagate the good word about the Eastchester Irish St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is scheduled for Sunday, March 15th. Now, I've been coming here for a couple of years, and I don't want to, do this, same old thing all over and over again. So one of the things I, contemplated was how I could do things differently this year. So one of the things I thought I'd talk about was maybe perhaps the fact that the Eastchester Irish is actually originally organized in the village of Tuckahoe. And then I thought about maybe talking about the fact that this whole thing, this parade, was the brainchild of Jim Hendry and Tom Uvain, or that under the current leadership of Michael Denning and Brendan Lynch, this parade has taken off as to be a county-wide anticipated family event. But that would be burying the lead. The lead this year is, for the first time in approximately half dozen years, we're going to have good weather for parade day. So I know, and for those sitting at home watching, I know I've been up here and I promise good weather every year. I'm telling you, this is the year to come out the Eastchester St. Patrick's Day Parade. So now, what I want to do, just to let you know, originally, and I spoke to some of the people here that I thought I was flying solo tonight. And I'm grateful that I still have my safety net, Paramerta. And not only that, we brought, bringing the big guns, we brought the Grand Marshal, Tim McGrath, here. And while I know Pat will speak, at the end of the day, I don't know if Tim will speak, we'll just feature Tim.
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
Honestly, just as well. What I do want to say before I, as we kid around, I am eternally grateful for the village of Tuckahoe, for all they do for the parade. As one of the guys who deal with the line of march, it's probably the village of Tuckahoe, the police department, the motorcade, probably the first guys I see every year. And I'm grateful that they come, regardless of the weather, regardless of the time of day. They come out and they're there, and they're awesome as far as leading us starting the parade. So, and with that, I want to thank everyone here who also marches, as well as Chief Costanzo for making sure that we have everyone. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Camille DeSalvo, who keeps me in line every year. Thank you. Okay. With that said, I do want to speak briefly about Tim McGrath, lifelong resident of Bronxville, and he is the president of Fred H. McGrath and Son Funeral Home in Bronxville. His family roots, because by the way it works with the Irish, and believe me, as an Irish American, I've had to learn this the hard way. Where are you from? Well, Tim McGrath is from Donegal and from Kerry. That's where his roots come from. And Tim has not only been a lifelong resident, but he's rolled up his shirt sleeve and he's gotten involved with the community. He's been involved. First of all, I know that for those who are available to go to the gala on Saturday, we learned about how the McGrath family was instrumental in getting the St. Joseph's Church started, and what an amazing accomplishment that is. But Mr. McGrath has gone on, Tim has gone on to be president of the St. Joseph's Men's Club. Do I have that right? Thank you. And Tim has been seemingly almost a lifelong member of, as far as the coaching staff for CYO. So Tim is involved. He's also involved with the bereavement organization that helps people that have lost loved ones. So his giving back to the community continues, and of course we're taking advantage of his givingness by having him be our Grand Marshal, and we're grateful for him to be part of this. We are going to now. I'm going to turn things over to Pat Murtaugh. He's going to tell you about our honoree, Kathy Deegan. But before I go, I just wanted to mention very quickly that our Green Line sponsor is Mackley Sullivan from his Business Fitness and Recovery, and our Emerald sponsors are Fred H. McGrath, Fred H. McGrath and Son Funeral Home, New York Presbyterian Hospital, O'Connor and Davies, and of course the Men's Club of St. Joseph's School in Bronxville. And with that, I want to turn things over to Pat.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening,
Thanks for
Pat.
having us
How
again.
are you? Anytime.
It's always a pleasure presenting in front of Tuckahoe. You guys, as to John's point, has been so instrumental in everything that happens. This parade would not happen. We met in Immaculate Conception Church downstairs. It was a Christmas party. Tony Colavita was there. We were not that big of a club at the time. We had quite a few members, but from that, Tony put the seed in a couple of people's heads, namely Tom and Jim and a few others. Why don't we try this? And initially when we started out, we thought, okay, if we get 2 or 3 bands, a couple of hundred people show up, we give some business to the local hostelries, which was very important for us, it'll be a success. Well, this has gone from beyond a success to an astronomical achievement, and that is run by now Mike Denning and Brendan Lynch and several others. And it takes a committee, and there's about 60 people involved. But I had the honor of, and I want to thank Dan for coming on Saturday night, of interviewing Tim Walsh, and to find him to be a consummate gentleman would be an understatement. And I said that to him, we've had a lot of Grand Marshals here, mostly of whom, like myself last year, are of the old sod, are very close to it. We've finally found somebody who is of this sod, the place where we now call home, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. And the McGrath family have been here longer than the 102 years in the family funeral home has been there. They had, as all good Irishmen should have, they owned a pub before they owned the funeral parlour. And both go hand in hand, by the way, and for those of you who've never been to Yonkers, to a funeral across the road from Hodder's is Rory Dolan's, so it's a very integral part of, unfortunately, that business. But it's a soothing way. The McGraths have been phenomenal. We all know this. I'm sure we've all been to multiple wakes at their funeral home, and just Tim and how he does things. It's such an honor to have somebody with such history to tell us about this town, because we've all grown to love it. I settled here in '91, and it's my home now. It's no longer Ballivor, County Meath, Ireland. It's Eastchester, as Manny would say. But I won't go on about Tim, because John will pick it up. But it is truly our honor to have somebody with such deep roots in this community of Bronxville, Tuckahoe, and Eastchester, we now call home, lead us up the Route 22, Main Street, starting off in Tuckahoe and going past the new Irish bar that's just about to open up. Jack's Bar, by the way, give it a plug. It is wonderful, because there's a history there that goes back to his great-grandfather and his grandfather. And boy, are we looking forward to having a native Irish-American lead us up this street. I do also want to talk about Kathleen Deegan, because on the 15th of March, Kathleen is our only honoree. It's a 2-person group this year. And Kathleen Deegan I've known since well before I moved to Eastchester. And Kathy and ladies like her have been the strength behind our club. And all of the events that we have run, if it was left up to the Irish guys, it'd be done by the seat of our pants. But thank God we marry good women. And Kathleen is one of those good ladies. And I love to see 3 ladies up here now representing the town of Tuckahoe. It's wonderful to see. Kathleen just would do anything for the club. Liam Deegan, to go I'm never quick, but as quick as I can to the roots of this thing. When Liam Deegan moved to Eastchester, the Eastchester Irish was dying. There was a few older generation there, and Liam grabbed it by the seat of his pants, and he stopped over to me with his 2 daughters, Kathleen's 2 children. He might stop in at 7 o'clock at night. He might leave till 10:30 when his wife is screaming on the phone to him, "Where are you with the kids? They got to go to sleep," as you mothers, who are mothers, will appreciate. But Liam put his everything into getting this club to become what it is, which was at one point a club of 300 families with about 200 kids, and we were so large that we had to go up to the to the Greek church on Mill Road, where we would have on a good Christmas, 700 people in there, waiting for Santa Claus to come. And it's marvelous that we can, on the 15th of March, show our Celtic pride and what we're about. And those of you who were at Saturday night's event or last year's event can see how much fun we have. And Kathleen was one of those people who put in all that effort to make those events phenomenal. And they were so much fun. And we have, John will attest to this, we have our children now who are grown up are lifelong friends and have become such tight friends around that club. And it's wonderful to see, because clubs like that tend to die and it's hard to keep them up. And now we're trying to get new blood in, and it's wonderful that Tim has come and with his young children. And hopefully he will, I know he's tremendously involved in St. Joe's, but we'd love to see him help us to keep the strength of the Eastchester Irish here. And as I said, Kathleen Deegan, her 2 daughters, thank God, grew up to be normal, despite the fact the father kept them out at 11 o'clock most nights, as he was running around multiple houses. Wonderful children. Ryan Deegan, their son. Kathleen was also instrumental in the founding of the first Irish step dancing class, or Irish step dancing school in Eastchester, the Anne Henry School, which was on Main Street initially. She had her establishment there. Now it's on Route 22. Again, bringing more of the culture. What the Eastchester Irish has always been about is introducing our culture and making it part of this town, of this multicultural town. And I think I can say for John and for Tim that we have done a pretty damn good job of it. And I think everybody enjoys the events that we throw. We welcome anybody. You don't have to be Irish to be a part of this. On March 15th, anybody can march with us. We love when Tuckahoe come out in force, and the town government are there. And again, Kathleen Deegan is one of those unsung ladies that without them this wouldn't have happened. It would be just me and John blathering up here about nothing. And they are the substance, and Kathleen was one of those substantive people. So again, thank you for having us. March 15th, John is going to take this back over from me. Okay. Remember, 3 o'clock, starting in ICS. We have massive amounts of wonderful bands. The pipes will be loud, and as John says, unlike last year when it was cold and wet, it'll be a little bit warmer. Thanks again for having me, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, following the whirlwind, and I know you guys are tired of listening to us, so I want to quickly just feature our Grand Marshal, Tim McGrath. And it's miraculous in a lot of ways, but one in particular is the fact that, as a Fairfield grad, he's allowing a Manhattan College graduate to speak on his behalf.
Whoa.
So you understand the
Yes.
depth of this. But for those who are not familiar with the parade, we started ICS promptly at 3 p.m. We go up Main Street, and I think that's where the green room is, as well as Jack's, and then we meet up with right, Jack's. Okay, just making sure. And then we meet up with Route 22, and we take that straight past Mill Road up until we get to Lake Isle. And that's at 3 o'clock. I hope everyone can come out. We want everyone to be there, and bring your sunscreen. Thank you so much.
I hope you're right, Mr. Collins. I'm tired of wearing that green scarf and my green hat for the last few years. Every time I look I'm in the same outfit every year, so same winter coat. So I'm holding you to this.
Mr. Mayor, as I pointed out earlier, you are actually wearing blue, which is the actual official color of Ireland, so I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you. Another way, we're freezing at that. Okay, I thought Tim was talking. Okay. Okay, well, let's move on. We still have our public hearing open on the prohibiting the sale of electronic nicotine delivery products in the village of Tuckahoe. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment, now is the time. If there's anyone on the board, we're keeping this open, pending the adjudication of the litigation by the vaping industry against certain municipalities. So rather than us involving ourselves in a potential lawsuit, we're going to wait for the resolution of this situation in the neighboring municipality. So I make a motion to keep this public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. And that'll bring us to the adoption of minutes from the February 10th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. And it is at this time is the first opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any agenda items. Yes, sir. Good evening.
My name is Joe Nisi. I live at 54 Lawrence Avenue. I've been a resident of Tuckahoe for about 25 years. With the upcoming election, I'm trying to sort out some conflicting information that I've received.
Is this an agenda item right now?
Oh, wait, isn't that the right time?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Sorry. Okay, not being anywhere, we'll move on to our resolutions. Resolution number 1 is authorizing the Bronxville senior class to use the Main Street Park basketball courts for a senior week basketball round-robin event on Wednesday, May 20th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. Resolution number 2 is authorizing the modification of the overtime parking restriction on Jefferson Place from a 4-hour to a 2-hour zone. Before I make the motion, I just want everyone to know that the appropriate amount of signatures was gathered, 60%. So that is why this is now on the agenda as a resolution number 2. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. Resolution number 3 is authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with AMCA Services, Inc., otherwise known as Crestwood Taxi, for use of village parking spaces and participation in the Dial a Ride program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. Resolution number 4 is authorizing the mayor to execute a shared IMA with 11 Westchester communities for a New York State DEC grant for continued collective use and payment of the Recollect Recycling app. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. Resolution number 5 is authorizing setting a public hearing for April 13th, 2020 to consider the tentative budget for fiscal year June 1, 2020 through May 31, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. Resolution number 6 is authorizing that the internal management letter and the audited financial statements for all fund types and account groups for the fiscal year ended May 31, 2019, prepared by PKF O'Connor Davies, LLP, are hereby accepted and ordered to be filed pursuant to New York State Village Law, Section 4-408E. Before I make a motion, David, could you just please expound on this so the public knows what this is about?
This is something that the board has not done every year, but they've done it every year unofficially. So I believe at our last meeting, the auditor came up and provided a presentation in regards to our books last year. Prior to that, that was good enough in regards to the checklist of everything that we have to do to officially accept the audit. This year, however, they're getting more strict on their standards of what we actually need to do to accept the audit. So this is just officially doing it via resolution.
Okay, great, thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. And resolution number 7 is authorizing the approval of vouchers in the amount of $518,609.85. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Andino.
In favor.
Trustee Lang.
In favor.
Trustee Howell.
In favor.
Trustee Lee.
In favor.
Mayor Luise.
In favor. And at this point, it'll bring us to any discussion items that we might have at this time. Okay. That'll bring us to our departmental reports to the board, and we will start, as we always do, with Police Chief John Costanzo.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good
members of the
evening.
board. Just a couple of announcements. One, I just wanted to update the board that, we've had some conversation about the coronavirus and how it affects our response and to medical emergencies. I shared with the board a plan that we have in place that was put into place back in 2009 when the H1N1 swine flu was hitting this area in the United States, and it's a joint plan with our partners at Scarsdale Police, Bronxville Police Department, and Eastchester Police Department. In the event that any one of us or all of us had a precipitous drop in manpower, that we would pool our resources in order to respond to emergencies. And this plan has been in place since 2009. Our people have trained on it repeatedly, and we've reviewed it, obviously, now with the coronavirus outbreak. So we are hopefully never have to enact it, but we are prepared that should it arise to that level. We have monitored and changed our dispatch procedures to ask the proper questions in screening medical calls, particularly ones that are transferred to what is called 60 Control, which is a county dispatch for the fire department and EMS, where they are asking a series of questions in order to determine if somebody's at risk for the coronavirus, and that would dictate how our response to those particular medical emergencies. We've spoken with the fire department, with EVAC, with the emergency department at Lawrence Hospital, and we're all on the same page with our protocols. So I just wanted the board and the public to be aware that we are working on it, and obviously things change day to day, and we're listening to the experts and driven by what the CDC and other experts are saying, even our local hospitals and medical providers. So I just wanted to update the board on what's going on with that. On some good news, I guess you'd say, is that we are prepared to be taking down the snow zone signs in the next few weeks. Luckily, we didn't have much use for them this year, and that was a good thing.
Not at all.
So just, I want our residents to know that when those signs come down, the alternate side of the street parking signs will be put up. We plan on doing that probably about 2 weeks out, just to make sure we get through, most of March, and keep our fingers crossed that we won't have any late snowfalls. But we've been very fortunate this year. But as that happens, the alternate side of the street parking goes into effect so that the sweeper could go out from the Department of Public Works and get our streets cleaned up. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. How ironic that we changed the time frame and we get no snow, either before, well, and
Bring
hopefully.
an umbrella to work, you never need it.
That's right. That's right. But thank you, Chief, and thank you for being proactive with the IMA. And now we will have our Department of Public Works, Mr. Frank DeMarco.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
I just want to first thank all of those that are responding to this coronavirus. It's pretty serious, and police officers and all those that are involved in the medical field as well. You know, I say thank you. What DBW is doing this time of year, we're doing quite a bit, but I'm going to first start off by saying that the less I mention that S word, the less snow we have. So I'm not mentioning it anymore, any more years to come. We're letting that go. But March is always a crazy month. So
Are you still talking to Joe Rayo?
Oh,
Or
the
you?
less I talk,
Okay.
the better off we are. But this time of the year, DPW is, we planted 145 trees this year. So kudos to the DPW department. They don't want to see another tree for the next year and a half, so I promised them that. But we're also going around pruning, you know, taking all the dead limbs out of these trees so they don't fall on people, cars, and homes. So we try to protect all of that as well. We're going around to all the parks. We're making them safe. We're inspecting all the equipment, the slides, make sure there's no cracks in them. The chains are not worn. The loops are not worn. The seats are not worn and ripped. And if they are, we just replace everything. So we try to make it safe. Every year I inspect them, and sometimes twice a year. I'm going to move on to Main Street. Main Street is moving pretty quick at this point. So they're at Fairview, Con Edison, and they're looking to get down to Depot Square, which is a shorter run than from Marbledale to Fairview. I think they're going to be, I'm hoping that within the next 6 weeks they'll be completed. David and I have been meeting with Con Edison and also with Westchester County, and they're looking to come in right behind us to do all the work that they're going to do, and I think David's going to elaborate on that a little bit. All right. Can't wait to get that Main Street paved.
Oof, and how?
So, please. First time ever, Westchester County-wide wants to clean up that coincides with the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and that's this year. So Westchester County Executive George Latimer had asked that all municipalities form their Earth Day, which could fall between April 1st and May 17th. So one of our environmental committee members, Erin Provenzano, has scheduled on May 2nd a Bronx River Riverkeepers Cleanup Day, which he does twice a year. And it just so happens to have fall on a day that should be scheduled for our municipal Earth Day. So we plan on building on that May 2nd at the Parkway Oval. Sally, the superintendent of parks, had reserved that field for us for that entire day. I know she had it booked up for all sorts of soccer events, and I was like, oh, God, I wanted that day. She calls me 10 minutes later and said that she told them all to reschedule their games for that day.
Really?
And gave it to us. So
Great.
thank you.
That's great.
And we would like to include a lot of events. We don't have to have just a Riverkeeper cleanup day. We could have a trail cleanup committee. We're gonna have we're hoping to have a lot of volunteers there that day, and we're gonna pick areas within the village that we're gonna target and clean, and we'll see how much debris we could collect. Anybody who wants to give us any ideas, this is the first time that we're doing this, and we wanted to make a big event. We're also having a dunk tank, Mayor, and I heard that you're really great at this.
He's good at it.
So we're looking for volunteers.
Who said that?
A little bird.
Okay.
We're gonna have vendors there. We're gonna have Sustainable Westchester setting up tables. We're gonna have the Audubon Society set up a lot of committees and a lot of organizations. So we're reaching out to a lot of people. So we're hoping for a big event. We're hoping to have music. I'm gonna elaborate more on this on our next month's meeting. I'll have all the details for everybody. So again, any suggestions, please give me a call. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Mr. DeMarco.
Thank you.
And now we'll have a recreation attendant from the community center, Mr. John Galuzzi.
Takes a while for me to get around these days. Well, good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Nice to be with you this evening. Coming up in April is our Easter egg hunt, of course. I'm here to talk about that a little bit. It's Saturday, April 11th for ages 1 to 9 at Parkway Oval Field here in Tuckahoe. The egg hunt starts at 11 a.m. promptly. We always start it early. So if you're family here in Tuckahoe and you're bringing your kids down there, make sure you come a little early. So 11 a.m. is when we start. The Easter Bunny puts out 10,000 eggs, compliments of the Generoso Pope Foundation. So thank you, David Pope. We also have a disc jockey on the 11th. His name is DJ Fizzle, and he's from Tuckahoe. He'll be our maestro spinning the music that day at Parkway Oval. We have food vendors, Giulio's Italian Street Kitchen, which is a food truck, and of course Nutmeg will be there from Main Street. There'll be some toy vendors for the kids and the children. We'd like to thank Tracy Colabella and the Scouts, Tuckahoe's Troop 19, for agreeing to assist in helping to host the event. So come on down, just a reminder, ages 1 to 9 to Tuckahoe's Easter egg hunt on April 11th at Parkway Oval Field, and take a photo with the Easter egg bunny. The mayor, you'll do the countdown for when you'll do the countdown, won't you?
Provided I'm not in the dunk tank at the time. But yes, I will.
But I can't get one that day.
Oh, I know, but you never know with them.
Remember, the hunt will start at 11 a.m. promptly. For more details, you can call me at the community center at 231-0229. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. You never know. They might bring that dunk tank around with them. So that'll bring us to our village clerk. Camille, do you have anything for us? No? Village attorney, Mr. Gertston. Okay, Mr. Burke?
Quick update. As Mr. DeMarco mentioned, him, myself, the police chief had a meeting with just Westchester County last Monday in regards to Main Street. So they are moving on that. Obviously, a contractor has been awarded the bid. We are meeting at the county facilities with Con Ed, the county, Eastchester, all parties to coordinate when they are going to start, staging and all that stuff. That's next Monday at the county. So we'll know a lot more at that point. But just to provide an update, Main Street will be paved, which is fantastic news. There'll be some new handicapped sidewalk put in regards to some intersections. And one of the best things is that, if you recall, we had 3 traffic signals designed for the village. We'll talk in the budget process of how we get that done, but the county has agreed to do some of that work in regards to putting conduits in and pole boxes in when they're doing some of that work. So looking to work closely with the county, get a lot of this work done, hopefully save the village money, but hopefully we'll know a lot more next month. We'll get some notifications out in regards to the website when this is going to start. But as Mr. Marco said, Con Ed is moving quite quickly, so it's nice to see. Coronavirus. It has been a hot topic of conversation. I don't think that we need to go over that people need to wash their hands, but in regards to the village, we've done a few things to try to step up at least cleaning procedures. We're looking to have both the community center and the library cleaned at least 3 times a day, once in the morning and then a couple of times at night. This is just disinfecting public areas, doorknobs, bathrooms, things like that. So we're trying to keep up as much as possible. Westchester County has instituted conference calls. We had our first one today. First one last week, now regularly scheduled at 4 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Unfortunately, they're not giving us too much direction right now. We're just kind of waiting on what we should be doing. Obviously, we know that the senior center has closed for the next couple of weeks. We're not prepared to close anything else out right now, but not looking to schedule any large events right now. What we do is hoping that people either go to our website, go to official websites.
Yes.
Facebook is great, but go to the Westchester County Department of Health, go to the New York State Department of Health. Obviously, numbers and are changing rapidly. Also have another conference call with just villages tomorrow, with just administrators, to kind of get a sense of what they're doing. Kind of want to be on the same page if we're all going to cancel events or not cancel events. Stuff that myself and the board really need to think about in regards to public meetings and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, these conference calls with the county will help in the next couple of days, but closely monitoring that situation as of right now.
Thank you. And that'll bring us to miscellaneous business. Our first budget work session will take place on Saturday, March 21st at 8:30 a.m. right here in Village Hall. The village reorganization meeting will take place April 6th at 7 p.m. And the next regular village board meeting will be April 13th, as always, at 7 p.m. And it's at this time, it will be the Board of Trustee members' reports, and we'll start with Trustee Andino.
Thank you, Mayor. I will try to keep this short. So as you all know, as I report every month on the library, the programs continue to be robust. I did meet with the director today, and she did express concern over the news about coronavirus, so attendance may be low. She did want me to just still let you know that there are programs going until she receives the word that something different should happen. So right now on Wednesdays, March 11th and the 25th, they will still have pre-K yoga for ages 2.5 to 5 years old at 11 o'clock. They will also have a kids movie, Moana, on Thursday, March 26th at 3:30 for ages 5 and up. And for the teens, they still will hold the chess classes on Thursday, March 19th, ages K through 12. For the adults, there is an art class being held by the local artist Jessica Chiofoletti and our own judge, Mayor Fuller, will teach about estate planning. So if you can get out to that. We also are celebrating March is Women's History Month. The library will be hosting 2 events to celebrate women. One of them is Women in Politics on this Wednesday at 11 o'clock at 6:30 p.m. And we'll have a panel discussion, Women in Politics, that include your local women in politics, Mayor Mary Marvin, myself, and trustees Gina Lee and Renee Howell. So if you would like to get to know your local women in politics, come out. There's also an event on March 18th that librarian Giovanna will discuss the role of women in Westchester and throughout the nation, leading the way in the women's suffrage movement. So those are the library events for the month of March. I also want to let everyone know that I had a meeting with Amy Goodman, our interim superintendent at Tuckahoe High School. She was requesting some help with the students who have developmental disabilities transitioning out of school. And so that's something that we're going to try to work on together to try to make sure that they're able to navigate the state system, which can be a little complicated, and I have experience doing that. We also just really talked about how we could collaborate a little bit more, and the board did discuss this at our last meeting, just to begin discussions on how the schools, the PTAs, can really come together and share information, possibly collaborate. So we're just in the beginning stages of that. Also want to let you know that the ECAP has hired a new director. We've been without one for about 3 or 4 months, since November. So the new director is Denise Chin. If you'd like to meet her, you can stop over at the ECAP. You can call. So we've had preliminary discussions about really ramping up, which they already have some good programs, but just thinking about some new ways of doing things. And I think that's it for me. I also want to thank everyone for the birthday emails and texts and calls. The residents showed me a lot of love, so I appreciate that. And I think that's it. Oh, and I have to tell my daughter, happy birthday, March 25th, but we won't be here before. So happy birthday, Ciara. And today's my brother's birthday, March 9th. So happy birthday, Edgar. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so first I have an update with Damon Marr, sorry. So I've been in communication with our county legislator, Damon Marr, regarding the county buses that have been laying over in Depot Square, creating a traffic nightmare. Unbelievable as it may sound, people are unable to cross the street because the bus parks right in the middle of the crosswalk. Don't think you or I can get away with that. But somehow these professional commercial bus drivers think nothing of it. Cars can't back out of their parking spaces because the bus simply takes up too much room. When cars are parked in our handicap spots, they're forced to drive in reverse halfway down the parking lot just to get around the bus. I've sent photos to Damon showing not one but two buses laying over in Depot Square for extended periods of time, sometimes forcing a halt to traffic completely. This is a serious problem that is affecting our downtown businesses because these buses are impeding access to greatly needed parking spaces. So if anyone experienced madness down at Depot Square, join in reaching out to Damon Marr. I have a number. You can see me after the meeting for it if you'd like. Okay, next. The Women's Ministry of Shiloh held a wonderful event during Black History Month. Myself and 3 of my sons attended. We really enjoyed ourselves and truly enjoyed the wonderful hospitality. So thank you to the Women's Ministry of Shiloh. Also, the Deaconesses of Shiloh just held a luncheon with that same wonderful hospitality. So thank you to them. As always, there are a lot of good things going on at Shiloh. Next, I would like to thank the ladies of the Tuckahoe VFW for their help and thank those who participated in this past Sunday's fundraiser. Thank you very much. I just want to mention Lake Isle Country Club. Membership registration will begin Sunday, March 15th. The office hours are from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, they're open from 10 to 4. And you would also be able to register online that same day. I thought you might like that. Yeah. Lastly, I was given the opportunity to share my thoughts about this year's St. Patrick's Day Grand Marshal, Tim McGrath. However, I felt it was rushed, and I didn't want to take too much time. You know the Irish up there, they run a tight ship, and I wasn't looking for any trouble. However, here I can take as long as I want. Tim has been there for my family more times than I can count, providing an immeasurable sense of comfort time and time again, a feeling you come to expect every time you step foot through the doors of his loving funeral home. It takes a person with a special gift to be in this line of work. In this life, you don't meet too many people that have that natural gift of comfort, an attribute that is greatly appreciated during trying times. So if you would like to meet one of these special people and this year's Grand Marshal Tim McGrath, please join us on the parade route this Sunday at 3 p.m. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Howell?
Thank you. So in 9 days, we have an election. So I just wanted to remind everybody, a village election, please vote. I think I mentioned a little voting guide that I wrote with the help of a fellow village resident. And before I knew it, our capable administrator, David Burke, had that up on the website. So if you go look under Village Clerk, you will find the voting guide. So thank you for that, David. The zoning board is going to meet on March 11th. There are two matters that will be on the agenda, the daycare at 21 Columbus and the dog training at 145 Main Street. I think there's also an awning that might be on the agenda. If decisions are rendered at that meeting, then they'll come on to the planning board agenda. Right now, the planning board agenda shows those two items as adjourned, but it all depends on what happens on the zoning board meeting. In addition, on the planning board, we have 2 open ad hoc seats currently, so we are looking for applicants for those positions. If you would like more information, please see me. I'm happy to tell you about it. It's a great opportunity to get involved in your community. And you can actually email anyone on the board who's interested. I wanted to remind folks about the census, which will start April 1st, no fooling. And one thing I learned from talking to the folks at the census was that we'll have library computers, so the census is going to be taken online, which I believe is the first time. And if you're uncomfortable doing this at home from your IP address, you can go to the library computers and you'll be able to access and fill out the census from that computer. It's really important. The census, as we heard last week, is responsible for congressional districting as well as federal funding, and they estimate that there's about $2,500 per person lost by inaccurate data for the census. So it's really incredibly important that we get that data right. And the last thing I wanted to mention was on March 24th, there is a bond being voted on in the Eastchester School District on security and infrastructure. And that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Lee?
Thank you, Mayor. Hope everybody enjoyed this beautiful weather this past few days. As David Burke said, the Tuckahoe Senior Center has been closed from March 9th, is scheduled to reopen March 20th to take proper precautions against the coronavirus. This decision was made with sincere interest in keeping our members healthy and safe. All their outings will also be canceled. I missed last month's meeting with good reason. I was away watching our Tuckahoe senior rec cheerleaders compete in the world and national title. It was an amazing experience for my two daughters, Ava and Angie, and their teammates. They brought home another world championship. So congrats to all the girls. Thank you. It was very amazing. They are incredible. Congratulations to all the girls and the coaches. We will keep you all posted on a parade that will be taking place in our village. I would also like to congratulate our Tuckahoe varsity basketball team, both boys and girls. They had a wonderful season and they made it all the way to the championship. And I just wanted to talk about a little bit what's going on at Cottle, the renovations. The second floor is almost done. It's all trim work, radiator covers, doors are being put up, the exterior doors, just all fine tuning. So we're almost there, which is very exciting for our kids. The scaffolding started coming down, which was very exciting. The mayor did go there, right?
Yes,
And
that was a reading day.
and it was amazing, right?
It is. School has come a long way from when I went.
Yeah, so they're just waiting for all the equipment, furniture, and they'll start putting that together. Hopefully we get our fifth graders up there before the end of the year. But they definitely will be able to use the Innovation Lab. So at least they'll get that. And as far as the security vestibule, they're framing the walls and getting that ready. And that's really it. That's all I have. Just everybody stay safe, wash your hands, hand sanitizer, and keep away from that coronavirus.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be very brief. Last week, I attended a community forum that was put together by Reverend Michael Gerald at the Tuckahoe Community Center. It was attended by County Legislator Damon Marr, Senator Shelley Mayer, Assemblywoman Amy Pauling, County Executive George Latimer was there, Chief John Costanza was there, and I also was there, moderated by Mayor Mary Marvin. It was a very engaging conversation with the residents. They had the opportunity to question all of us that were up at the panel, and I look forward to another one. I think it was that successful, and I think the Reverend's going to put one together in the not-too-distant future. As well as you know, we also conduct resident meetings in neighborhoods. Our first one will be coming up in May. We'll discuss that at our next in April about where that site will be. In regards to this coronavirus, just this past Friday, I had a conversation with the president of Lawrence Hospital. Basically, he's saying everything that everyone's already said. Universal precautions. Wash your hands. Don't put your hands in your mouth, your eyes, so on and so forth. And if you can, stay out of crowded areas. Mayor de Blasio said something this evening, don't ride the subways if the train's too crowded, wait for the next one. So I'll let you know how that works out because I'm going into the city tomorrow. But, seriously, it's concerning. But then again, on the other hand, I don't want to create or be part of creating some type of hysteria. So please, it's been said a million times this evening, universal precautions. And with that, I will be the second opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any items or? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Anthony Fiore, 3 Midland. Paving on Main Street. Once it gets paved on there, no one else is going to come in a couple of months later and dig it up again?
We don't know.
That's another thing, right?
Yep.
Just in case. Find out if anybody has to go in first before.
Just as a FYI, we've been in constant contact with Suez Water. They do have a very old pipeline that runs through Main Street. They said that everything is fine. They've actually done some probing on some joints, and they're going to try to go in there and fix anything that they need to fix prior to that, but they have
That's it.
no plans to do any,
That's all I
any
wanted
new
to say.
pipe.
I mean, if it's any consolation, if anyone travels up Tuckahoe Road when they leave Tuckahoe, and you see the work they're doing up there, thank God those plates aren't laid down on our Main Street the way they're laid up there. I guarantee you, if you do that, if you hit that plate the wrong way, you're going to have a flat tire. At least here, this construction crew has done a good job of keeping those plates as level with the road surface as possible. Yes, how are you? Good evening.
Grace Baldwin, 14 Westview Avenue. First, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all of you trustees for all of the work that you do for us in this community. I'm here again about the issue of local elections because I do believe that as Americans, we all cherish our right to vote, whether it's in the national elections or local elections. In January, a resolution to give Tuckahoe residents the right to vote on when our local elections will be held was opposed by the current board in a vote of 3-2. However, since then, at last month's meeting, it became clear that misunderstanding exists not only within the community, there's been kind of rumblings about what actually is going on, but within the board members themselves, it was clear that people were not clear on what was voted on. So the confusion persists, and I therefore respectfully request that the resolution be put forth again. And to be very clear, that in voting on this resolution, the board is essentially voting on whether or not to give Tuckahoe residents the right to choose when we want to hold our local elections.
Gary, can we re-explain this again about what exactly we voted on?
So Trustee Howell had made a motion. I'm going to try to remember this.
Okay.
It's been 2 months now. And Trustee Howell, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, of course. Sorry about that. So Trustee Howell made a motion to have the issue of whether elections should be moved till the November national election. That was your motion, correct? That was
It was to
put on the
put a referendum
put a referendum
forward.
Word is referendum.
referendum. Sorry about that. Getting old.
I know.
It's just memory thing.
Right. It was to put forward a vote, so that the villagers could vote on whether they wanted to move the election to November.
Right.
Correct. And that
So, but
motion did not pass. There needed to be a majority. So there's 5 members on the board, so they would need 3 to approve that motion for it to be passed. So now the board did not vote to put a referendum out there to move the elections to November.
I understand that, but I also understand that when this matter was brought up in the last month's meeting, it became very clear that there was confusion among board members as to what they believed that they actually were voting on. And because of that, and because it was publicly expressed, I thought that it would be fair for Tuckahoe residents just to clarify this and to have the resolution put forward again and hopefully give Tuckahoe residents the right to vote on whether or not when we want local elections held.
Okay.
Would
Thank
you
you.
be willing to do that?
I think at last month's election, I think it was a matter of, I used the word resolution as opposed to referendum. And I believe the village attorney explained that the end process was the same. So we voted against a referendum to place on the November ballot the opportunity for residents to move the elections to November. That is a decision that I'm going to speak for myself based on the comments that were presented here at the various village board meetings prior to the resolution being put forth. As one of the elected officials here, that was my decision to vote against the referendum to move the election to November.
Not to give residents the right to vote on.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I promised the mayor I'd wear this. Mike Dardano, Chestnut Street, Tuckahoe. I want to, one of the reasons I'm wearing this is to think of something big and bold based on what this resident just said. And before I do that, I want to thank the Reverend for putting together that community meeting. That was excellent. It was great. For those of you who missed it, it was wonderful. The mayor stood there by himself at the end and answered questions, unfiltered. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
And the other trustees that were there, appreciate that too. That was great. One of the reasons that was said that we couldn't move elections was because we wanted to focus on local issues. And I think we're seeing every day that that's harder and harder to do. We have a coronavirus which originated in China. We have Saudi Arabia and Russia now in an oil war, which is going to affect gas prices for the better, but also the economy. We have things in Albany that are going on that are going to affect us here. Some of them are going to be very negative because of the budget situation. We have federal issues like tax law changes and things like that. Nothing to do with partisanship, just like reality. So I think it's time for some bold action. It's hard to do now because we're in the election, but I think after the election, I think it makes sense for the village board to put together the best minds we have in the village to come up with some creative ideas for how we deal with things like the hotel not being opened, how we're going to get different revenue, what we can do about affordable housing. A lot of times what happens is when you have meetings with different politicians, they'll say, oh, it's the school issue or it's the state. And I understand that. There's only certain things we can control, but let's control what we can control. Let's have a meeting. Let's bring the school people in. Let's bring George in. Let's bring our state legislators. And let's have a meeting where we work, like a working meeting like you guys do for the village board. Let's do that. The chamber wants to do something. I know that. We can get some people from the chamber. Obviously, the public could be part of it too, but I think that's what we need. I don't think we need to bring any high-priced consultants that don't live here, that just are they come in and they're gone and they don't live here. So I'm suggesting after this election is over that we do something bold like that and form a citizens committee with the business, with landlords, because landlords' rents are tough for the small businesses. And let's try to work something out so that when something happens like the hotel not being open, or if the economy slows down, which could happen, I mean, eventually it will, that we have plan A, B, and C, and that the board members aren't just depending on themselves, but using the brain power of our residents, which I think is quite strong, that could be a benefit. So,
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's nice to be here. I have several things on my mind. Excuse me. First, I don't know who originated this, and that's why Lovely Billups, South High Street. Sorry, I thought everybody just recognized me. I don't know who originated this idea of the school board and the village board meeting on the same night. And I understand, I think you're thinking about doing something about that. But it really disenfranchises one half of our bodies, because there are really serious issues at the school right now with the number of administrators they have to find to replace the new superintendent, and then an agenda which I feel very vociferously involved in, and that's the utilization of the strength of our diversity. And so that it's very hard to be there and to be here on the same night. It cuts you're a taxpayer, you're a parent, you're a village resident, you're all that, and so you ought to be, I hope you're working with them to change this to the point where you're not conflicted in whether or not you should be at the school board or be here, when you or have interest in both entities. That's one. And to beat a dead horse that won't die again, it's this business of the election dates. I am an equal opportunity consumer here in Tuckahoe, from one end to the other. And the confusion out there about what you decided in terms of when we should vote is really not, please not let this happen again. I still think that what you said, what the referendum was about, was to have a discussion, give the people a chance to decide whether they wanted to decide to change the dates. And I'm just very deeply concerned about the way that went on, and we just seem to be in total confusion. So after next week, after the election, whatever is the constituency of this board, I hope you never do that again. I'm almost ready to ask each one of you, what did you think you were voting for? Because I don't understand this at all. And the public is, Mr. Mayor, I swear to you, very, very conflicted about this. It's too important for us to use semantics or smoke, and I don't know what we're doing. But I really don't like it. And I hope that with the fresh start, whoever comes in, whatever's the constituency of this board, that we don't let that happen again. And so that was the date of the village meeting, and the school board meetings needs to be somehow figured out so that we can exercise our rights as citizens with the school board and with the village board. And finally, I'm a member of Shiloh. I love my church, and I love the events. I would think, though, that there are other churches who do things. I don't want this to look like all we're doing is celebrating Shiloh's luncheons or whatever's going on. Other board members, if you have something going on at your religious institutions or other things, you should share it. I just want to be sure that we're clear on that. And the forum, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, was fantastic. And I think is a lead-in to what the previous speaker said, that we want to have meetings that are inclusive and help us to work out the things that are good for this beloved village, including affordable housing. That's the other thing. That's the other conversation that people have here. Just yesterday, someone was saying to me how their children graduate or get jobs and can't live in the beloved village of Tuckahoe, because not everyone is in the above $100,000 echelon. So I want us to keep that very much involved. I want everybody to go and look at Columbus Avenue between Underhill and down by the library. There's a whole block there of wall, and the backs of somebody's houses or whatever's there. We ought to have some buildings there where the young people and the people, the citizens here whose children graduate and get jobs and who don't have to worry about commuting to the two railroad stations that we have, but they're here. They ought to be able to live here. I want you to put that in your hearts and on your agenda, something that doesn't start at $4,000 and $5,000 a month. Thank you, and you know I'm always for Tuckahoe. Go Tuckahoe. I'm so sorry we lost at County Center the other day, but we were proud of our kids being there.
Yes, we
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Nisi. I live at 54 Lawrence Avenue. I've been a resident of Tuckahoe for about 25 years. You mentioned the community forum that you attended about a week and a half ago, and at that time you had said that tax relief were words that we wouldn't expect to come out of your mouth. I mean, I'm literally quoting you. I don't mean it to be rude, but you had said that tax relief for the village of Tuckahoe was not something that we should look for you to provide to us.
No,
Is
that's
that correct?
what I said was the words tax relief did not come out of my mouth. That's what I said.
Right. And so is that something that you're considering, tax relief for the?
I'll say it again. Tax relief is not the two words you will not hear coming out of my mouth.
Okay.
We are entering the budget sessions right now. We'll see what happens when the budget is over.
Right. So in other words, like for me to make an informed decision, I've received recently from Trustee Lang and with Trustee Lee's name on it, saying that he would work with yourself to provide a much-needed tax relief for the families of Tuckahoe.
Sure, absolutely.
So isn't there a conflict there? I mean, it seems
No.
at the forum that you were saying that
There's five members of this board that will sit down in a room with the village administrator, with the department head, and the treasurer, and try to work out the budget.
Right.
Right now, our tax cap is at 1.78. Am I correct, David? Well, then again, this is where, right. So with the passage of this new criminal justice reform law, that impacted our current budget and money that we had not appropriated. So there's a situation right there that automatically that figure, and it was a conservative figure that was given to us by the police department, is automatically puts us over the tax cap.
Right.
But again, we have to sit down, the five of us, with the department heads, again, and with the village administrator, and we will do everything we possibly can to stay at the tax cap. That's always been my goal.
And that's what you had
Right,
mentioned.
and I even mentioned at that meeting, there was one year or one budget where I voted against the budget because we went over the tax cap.
And with the hotel not opening, I mean, that has impacted the budget as well.
Yes, that's also correct, yes.
So,
Fortunately, we were conservative in that figure.
right.
But nonetheless, again, that impacts our current revenues.
So, and I'm not trying to make this political, but doesn't it seem a little bit disingenuous to say that the trustees will be working with you to provide tax relief? I mean, again, it specifically said, again, I don't want to be political, but it says, if elected, we'll work with the mayor to bring you much relief,
Well, I don't want to be a
tax
wise guy, but I don't think anybody wants to be elected to increase taxes
No,
either.
no,
Okay.
I understand.
So I think whatever, again, I don't want to get into this political conversation. My thing is, my position is I am going to be as realistic as possible in getting this budget along, again, whoever's sitting on this board, that will be affordable for everyone in the village of Tuckahoe. Hopefully we can do that. As I said at that meeting, I hope I'm wrong. If you remember, I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we do come in at the cap or under the cap.
right. But unfortunately, it's looking like we're not going to make that. With
Well,
the
our
tax-
first budget work session that's open to the public is March 21st at 8:30, and you are more than welcome to attend. And you can.
Again, I just want to be, get information so I can make
Mhm.
an informed
I-
decision when I place my vote.
I am a realist when it comes to the budget.
We
Okay?
appreciate that. I think.
Thank you.
That's what you said at the community meeting, and that's how we took it, that it would probably be not increase, but at least stay the.
I mean, I could sound like a fool and say, you know what, we're going to cut taxes and we're going to close this, that, and the other thing.
Right, right.
Come on.
That-
That's
we
not
have to
going to
be
happen.
realistic, right.
That's
Okay,
not.
I appreciate
But
it.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Maybe I should make a kind of a public announcement for everyone who's listening. My wife and I bought tickets to West Side Story about 3 weeks ago. And I called up about 5 days ago to say that I didn't feel comfortable going to the theater. And at that time they said, too bad. You know, if you didn't buy the insurance, nothing you can do about it, even though, you know, it's quite an investment. I called up today, and they've changed their policy. As long as you call them 2 days before the event, they will book you into a future performance. So I think people should just know that, because a lot of people are feeling, you know, very apprehensive about being around crowds. And again, it was my fortune, because I was persistent and I called a few times. They changed the policy in the interim, and I did get a show, you know, in a future date. So I think people would like to know that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Louise, may I say something?
Sure.
So just on that note, and because we are talking about it's budget season, the New York State puts out a really great book that you can access online called Citizen's Guide to Local Budgets. And it nicely breaks down everything and explains how a budget is put together. I think we might be able to put a link on our website because it's budget season, so.
Thank you. You must have heard me calling you.
Osmosis. Mayor Luisi and members of the village board, I am Reverend Dr. Michael Gerald, pastor of Shiloh Baptist Church here in Tuckahoe. It gave me a great sense of pride to be able to convene the forum that Mr. Giordano and Sister Lovely Billups talked about this evening. I want to thank you personally, Mayor, and the two trustees that were in attendance, Ms. Andino and Ms. Lee. Thank you for coming out and providing answers to the public's questions. We also want to thank our county executive, George Latimer. We want to thank our state senator, Senator Shelley Mayer. We want to thank our Assemblywoman, Amy Paulin, our county legislator, Damon Marr, as well as our Chief of Police, John Costanza, for coming out and answering those questions that were asked of you. We look forward to having many more of those informational sessions. It was not partisan at all, because we had someone who moderated the meeting who kept the ball in the middle of the fairway in the person of Mary Marvin. So we, again, thank you for coming, and we look forward to doing this again. And you heard the members of the audience already talk about how important that forum was. And I believe it is important. Part of my ministry is a social one, because I understand the ministry of Jesus Christ to first be a social gospel ministry. And that means that people ought to be involved in the affairs of where they live and how things are done. And I feel that it's incumbent upon members of who are elected to serve the citizenry to always be present to answer questions, even in settings unlike this one. This is intimidating for some people to get up and talk to you in front of a board, a panel, and be on live television at the same time. And sometimes a forum, a setting that is not like this, not so formal, will allow voices to come forward and to present information that is useful for our governing good, right? So we want you to always be on the lookout for opportunities to come and share with particularly our constituency. I represent people who are not only from the village of Tuckahoe, but from outside of Tuckahoe and even into New Jersey. So issues that are germane to them need to be heard and need to be answered. So again, thank you for coming, and I look forward to all of you being present in the future.
Great.
All right?
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. With that, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
Until then, good night, Tuckahoe.